Dr. Teresa Sievers was the picture of success. A beloved holistic doctor, a devoted wife, and a loving mother of two. She was a beacon of health and wellness in her Florida community. In June 2015, that perfect life was shattered in a brutal and unthinkable act of violence. The investigation that followed would expose a web of greed and betrayal, but the true mastermind would remain hidden in plain sight until the very end. The day of the murder, Teresa's husband, Mark Sievers, was on a family trip with their two daughters. He was the one who called a friend to check on Teresa after she failed to show up for a meeting. The friend discovered the horrific scene. Teresa had been bludgeoned to death in her own home. Mark rushed back, a grieving husband trying to make sense of the senseless. He was distraught, visibly heartbroken. The scene was a puzzle. There were no signs of forced entry. This was not a random break-in gone wrong. The police were left to wonder, who could have committed such a personal, brutal crime? For months, investigators had no solid leads. It seemed like a case that would go cold. But a lucky break in the case led investigators away from Florida into the state of Missouri. There, they found two men with criminal backgrounds, Wayne Wright and Jimmy Rogers. It seemed like they had an airtight alibi, but phone records, social media posts, and a tip to the police told a very different story. The evidence was bizarre and undeniable. These two men, who had no known connection to Teresa, had traveled from Missouri to Florida on the night of the murder. Law enforcement used a powerful new tool, GPS data from their rental car. It provided a damning, irrefutable timeline of their journey, proving they were at the Sievers' home in Bonita Springs, Florida, on the night of the murder. Wright and Rogers were caught. They were the ones who had bludgeoned Dr. Teresa Sievers to death. But the mystery was far from solved. Why would two men from Missouri travel over 1,000 miles to murder a doctor they had never met? Who had put them up to this? Under intense pressure and facing a mountain of evidence, Wayne Wright confessed everything. He revealed the true mastermind behind the murder plot, and it was a shocking betrayal that shook the community to its core. Wright told investigators that he hadn't committed the murder for money, but at the instruction of his childhood best friend, Mark Sievers. The grieving husband was not a victim of this crime. He was the perpetrator. Mark Sievers had manipulated his friend to carry out the murder of his wife, all to gain access to millions in life insurance money and to escape his marriage. In the end, justice was served. Wayne Wright pleaded guilty to second-degree murder and testified against his best friend, Mark Sievers. Wright was sentenced to 25 years in prison. Jimmy Rogers, the accomplice, was convicted of second-degree murder and was sentenced to 26 years. The mastermind, Mark Sievers, was convicted of first-degree murder and sentenced to death.